fool, Josie sneered coldly. She added, "You're not even worthy of being a martial arts novice. Where do you get the audacity to shamelessly brag here?" Yui Toddy coughed up more blood and struggled to stand. "Watch what you say. If you insult the young grandmother again, I'll show no mercy." Josie patted her sleeve and walked away. As she passed, the crowd instinctively made room for her. Toddy gritted his teeth and pushed the crowd aside. He lunged at Josie. "How dare you insult me? Come here, die!" he yelled as he leapt and punched Josie in the back. "Watch out!" the crowd shouted. "Ha!" Josie instinctively turned her head. She was caught off guard by Toddy's surprise attack. She shuddered from the impact but stood firm. Meanwhile, Toddy was repeatedly repelled by a wave of divine aura. He lost his balance and fell flat on the ground. At this sight, the crowd burst into laughter. They wondered where this peculiar challenger came from. Toddy's sneaky attack not only missed, but it ended in an embarrassing fall to the ground. It was quite a spectacle. If you're not skilled enough, you shouldn't even think about trying a surprise attack. Being brought down in a single move is embarrassing. And now, you've also lost your dignity. If I were you, I'd probably look for a place to hide. When Toddy's surprise attack failed, the crowd erupted in laughter at his expense. Their faces were full of scorn and mockery. Dealing with such public humiliation was hard for anyone. No, this can't be real. Surrounded by ridicule, Toddy began to doubt himself for the first time. He was the strongest senior disciple in Moonlight Reverence. With his exceptional talent and strength, he was destined to become a grandmother. Yet, he had suffered a humiliating defeat and injured himself in a failed surprise attack. He wondered if the difference between them was so great, or if he really lacked the ability. "You ungrateful punk. I spared you, and you still had the gall to launch a surprise attack." Josie's expression turned icy. "If you want to die, I won't hold back." She unsheathed her sword and lunged at him. The blade cut through the air with a sharp, chilling sound. Toddy was stunned. He tried to stand, but his legs were trembling. He was paralyzed with a sense of impending doom. "No." At this crucial moment, Lin stepped forward. She shielded him with her body. "Are you playing with fire?" Josie sneered as she continued to advance with her sword, the blade closing in on them. Just as she was about to deliver a fatal blow, a silver needle shot out. It intercepted the sword and flung it aside. The force was so powerful that Josie staggered before regaining her composure. Who did this? Josie's sharp eyes searched the surrounding area. Those who met her gaze raised their hands and proclaimed their innocence. Dustin stepped forward and said, "Ms. Yale, I couldn't care less about the outcome of your duel, but please spare the innocent bystander." He didn't care about Toddy's fate, but it would be a shame if someone as loyal as Lin died. "Who are you?" Josie frowned as she scrutinized Dustin. She felt like she had seen his face before, but couldn't pinpoint it. "It doesn't matter who I am. I beg you to show mercy and not make matters worse." "And if I refuse?" Josie countered. "Then, I'll have to intervene," Dustin replied. With a flick of his finger, another silver needle shot out. It happened too fast for anyone to see. Josie, however, felt a cool breeze against her ear. As she turned, she noticed one of her hair strands falling gently. Her eyes widened, and she became even more alert. She had no idea what Dustin did or when it had happened. No one in the vicinity, including Josie herself, had noticed Dustin's entire maneuver. In other words, if he had intended to kill her, she might have been dead already. They all felt that Dustin's hidden weapon was truly frightening. When did another skilled young martial artist emerge in the martial world? "Josie, are you in any trouble?" Suddenly, a man dressed in green approached her. He was accompanied by a group of young martial artists. The man in green had a commanding air and a piercing gaze. His presence was so powerful that it forced onlookers to avert their eyes. "Look at their clothes. They seem to be the members of the Soul Reapers." "You're right. He's Lance Alkit, the top disciple of the Soul Reapers." Lance Alkit. I've heard that he's an outstanding young martial arts master. He has unmatched marksmanship and mysterious strength. He's considered to be the best martial artist of the younger generation. He even surpassed Josie. If Lance is here, the situation will only get more interesting. The appearance of Lance caught everyone's attention. It was worth noting that the Soul Reapers was a prestigious guild like Boulderthorn, although they didn't have as many members. The Soul Reapers had many elite disciples, especially Lance, the top disciple, was a martial arts genius of his generation. With his cultivation level, he had inherited the original teachings from the leader of the Soul Reapers. At the age of 30, he was already a well-known martial artist. "Hello, Lance," Josie greeted respectfully. Although she was the chief of Frostlanders, she was inferior to Lance in terms of status, position, and strength. Given Lance's expertise, it was more appropriate to associate him with the 4 main branches of Boulderthorn than with the 8 major guilds. "Josie, I heard you got into some trouble. What happened?" Lance smiled as he asked. He had always been interested in Josie, and the chance to play the hero would make him more attractive. "It's nothing, just a little scuffle. Nothing to worry about." Josie shook her head. As a genius martial artist, she took pride in her skills. She didn't want to rely on the strength of others to stand up for herself. "Our guilds have always gotten along well. So, drop the formalities," Lance said to Josie. He glanced at the surroundings, and his tone became stern. "Who dared to offend Josie? Show yourself." "Lance, it's him," one of the Frostlanders' disciples shouted, pointing at Dustin. "This brat attacked us with a hidden weapon and knocked Josie's sword away. He's truly despicable." "Quiet," Josie shot back. "Oh." Lance turned his gaze to Dustin and eyed him closely. He said coldly, "You've got some nerve to ambush her. I'm going to give you a chance now. Cut off your hands, kneel, and apologize to her." His words were firm and commanding. "Kneel and apologize?" Dustin raised an eyebrow. "Why should I?" White Lance scoffed. "Because I'm the chief senior disciple of the Soul Reapers. I'm stronger than you, and your fate is in my hands. Is that clear?" "So, you believe that power justifies action?" Dustin retorted. "Exactly," Lance replied proudly. "In the martial world, strength reigns supreme. Disciples of smaller guilds like yours should be vigilant outside, as trouble is everywhere." "You're right about that," Dustin nodded thoughtfully. He vividly remembered Graham, the leader of the Soul Reapers. In the Black Forest, Theodore, Graham, and Father Orson did everything they could to get their hands on Celestial Pearl. Although they claimed to be righteous, their actions were truly despicable. It shone a spotlight on human greed and deceit. This reminder infuriated Dustin. "Kid, listen carefully." Lance spoke imperiously. "I don't care who you are. If you try to hurt Josie, you'll suffer the consequences. Obey my orders now if you want to survive, or don't blame me for being merciless." "So you're Lance, the chief senior disciple of the Soul Reapers?" Dustin laughed. "Even your leader wouldn't talk to me like that. Who do you think you are?" His words caused a commotion in the crowd. "Seriously, is this guy crazy? Is that how he talks to Lance? The kid is pretty rude, doesn't he? He doesn't seem to realize how serious the situation is. Can you believe it? A martial artist from a small guild challenging the chief senior disciple of the Soul Reapers? He's just looking for trouble." Dustin's words caused a stir in the crowd. The martial artists were pointing and talking, and everyone stared at Dustin as if he were a fool. They wondered if it would be wiser to back down. In the face of such a capable fighter as Lance, Dustin could have shown some respect and used polite words, even if it made him uncomfortable. That would have been safer than provoking Lance when he clearly couldn't win. "What's going through that guy's mind?" Josie frowned. She didn't want to escalate the situation, but Dustin's words had only made things worse. It wasn't her problem anymore. But now, the reputation and honor of the Soul Reapers was at stake. "Mr. Reese, he's the Soul Reapers' chief senior disciple. We can't afford to offend him. You better apologize or we'll be in serious trouble," Lynn whispered. She was visibly worried. Dealing with Josie was difficult enough for them. Now that the fearsome Lance was involved, it would only get worse. "Kid, what did you just say? I didn't quite catch it. Can you repeat that?" Lance's eyes narrowed, and his expression darkened. No one had shown him such disrespect since he became famous. "You didn't hear me." "All right, I'll say it again," Dustin replied calmly. "I said, even your leader, Graham Thorne, wouldn't dare talk to me like that. Who do you think you are?" Upon hearing that, Lynn visibly paled. They were now in a predicament from which there was no way out. "Hey, are you insane, kid? Are you trying to get us killed?" Even the overly confident Toddy was shocked. After his fight, he realized the stark difference between major and minor guilds. Looks like he won't get it until he feels the pain. Josie shook her head. She knew Dustin's words not only humiliated Lance but also infuriated the entire Soul Reapers. Brat, you're asking for it. Lance couldn't restrain himself any longer. He pounced on Dustin and wanted to tear him to pieces with his hands in front of everyone. In the face of the sudden attack, Dustin remained composed and shot a silver needle with a flick of his finger. As Lance charged forward, he felt a sudden numbness in his knee. His body involuntarily tumbled to the ground. It put him in an extremely embarrassing situation. What? Everyone was shocked and trying to process the sudden turn of events. No one had expected the highly regarded Chief Senior Disciple of the Soul Reaper to fall in front of everyone. How embarrassing! Lance, what are you doing? Josie's lips twitched with an awkward expression. Lance stood up, looking disheveled. Upon closer inspection, he discovered a silver needle lodged in his knee. Damn it! He pulled out the needle and crushed it. He glared angrily at Dustin. You actually dare to fuck with me? If you come at me again, I won't hold back, Dustin said calmly. Fuck you. You're going to pay for this, Lance roared in frustration. Somebody bring me my spear. Lance, catch. One of the disciples from the Soul Reapers tossed a finely crafted steel spear. As Lance grasped the spear, he appeared fierce and dominant. His exceptional spear skills and advanced training had made him a renowned figure. He was undefeated in the martial world for years. Today, he intended to impress the martial community again with his exceptional skills. Brat, you're one of the few who have made me use my spear in years. If you meet your end today, consider it an honor, Lance scowled. With a swift thrust, the long spear shot forward like an arrow. Lance quickly narrowed the distance as he held the shaft and spun it rapidly. Instantly, he became one with his spear. He charged forward like a dark storm. As he moved, a whirlwind followed him, causing the nearby martial artists to tremble in fear. Celestial Pursuit. Lance and his became an unstoppable force as he advanced toward Dustin. His menacing presence shocked the spectators. Spear. What an incredible move. He truly lives up to the title of Spear Master. The Celestial Pursuit technique is Lance's trademark, and it's unbeatable. Wow, even his first strike is a deadly hit. I doubt the kid will survive. He sealed his fate when he challenged the Soul Reaper's Chief Senior Disciple. Lance's ultimate action made the other martial artists shiver in fear. They hastily retreated to a safe distance to avoid the impending chaos. Too slow, Dustin remarked calmly. Without flinching, he faced the oncoming spear. With a seemingly ordinary gesture, he lightly pointed his finger at the tip of Lance's spear. A deafening bang echoed through the area. The once earth-shattering spear attack crumbled instantly. A shock ran through Lance's body. His arms went numb, and the spear felt like it had hit a mountain. Lance looked at the situation and was shocked too. Find that a finger had stopped his renowned world-shattering thrust. He couldn't understand how that was possible. Is that it? Dustin shook his head in disappointment. He slowly bent his finger to the tip of the spear, and another thunderous explosion followed. Lance's long spear slipped from his grip. The violent impact sent him rocketing backward like a cannonball. The shaft of the spear struck him in the chest with crushing force. Ah! Lance cried out in pain as his chest took a brutal blow. He was thrown several feet in the air and crashed hard to the ground. There, he lay in agony, coughing up blood and unable to stand. What? The crowd was stunned. No one had expected Dustin to defeat Lance so easily. Lance was the Chief Senior Disciple of the Soul Reapers. He was considered one of the most promising talents in Balerno martial arts. To be defeated by Dustin with just one finger seemed utterly unbelievable. Who the hell was this guy? Whoa, can you believe it? This guy took down the Chief Senior Disciple of the Soul Reapers with just one finger. What's going on? How can this kid be so strong? Where did this monster come from? Did he actually defeat Lance? That's terrifying, isn't it? The unexpected turn of events caused quite a stir. Everyone had expected Lance to win, but Dustin overpowered him. This showed a clear difference in their abilities, and it amazed them. Is he really that powerful? Josie was taken aback. Initially, she assumed Dustin was only good at hidden weapons, but his physical power was astonishing. With a single finger, he had effortlessly flung Lance into the air. Among the martial artists of Balerno, no one was his equal. Reese, Mr. Reese defeated Lance. Lynn rubbed her eyes in disbelief. She had always admired the chief senior disciple of the Soul Reapers. Even so, Dustin's easy victory was incredible. The chief senior disciple of the Soul Reapers? He's so weak. He couldn't even defeat this kid. He's truly useless. Toddy sneered. In his eyes, Dustin was beneath him.